So I will try to make this brief. Actually, we're not only just preparing for park, but we're also preparing for science kneecap items as well. So as we go through this, I will be referring somewhat to some kneecap, but I just want to remind everyone that those are still embargoed. And so we will, I'm sure, once we get the results and be able to go public, we'll have open discussion and dialogue about the results at that time. For tonight is just to, and Mr. Cicerone will look forward to that. But for tonight, we are just wanting to make sure that our families and our community are aware of what's happening and where we are in this process as far as getting ready for the state assessment results. I will post this and other resources on our district website, so parents will be able to refer to this presentation as well if they are not here this evening. But just to remind everyone that we are moving through our curriculum implementation as we've been working with the state and the district to make sure that our curriculum is aligned to the Common Core standards. And we're also moving towards our implementation of the next generation science standards. Our FOSS kits this year are now fully transitioning over. The middle school has a few that are still the last edition, and as those come out, we will be moving towards those. So we are starting to transition fully over with our kits as well. And then we continue to refine our comprehensive assessment system to make sure that we are preparing our students for their instruction and assessment to improve their learning. So in particular, we have the park assessments that'll be coming out. For those of you who are not familiar with park at this point, it is a collection of states that have worked together to develop tests in both math and ELA, grades 3 through 8, and at the high school, and that we are measuring different level of standards from what we were doing previously with the Rhode Island state standards. This is looking at a different set of standards to make sure that students are on track to be successful in college and careers after graduation. The assessment itself is based on higher learning standards than we ever had before with NECAP, and that this assessment will be a brand new baseline for us and all of the park states. So we need to keep that in mind, that this is just a baseline and this is our first stab at the data. So some of the objectives that they're hoping to get out of park is to make sure that our students are, to determine whether our students are ready for college or career, reporting growth. We're going to be looking at results around the state, but now also additional states, just not the consortium of the original NECAP states, but now there are states across the United States that are also using this assessment. It also is technology-based, so we will again be implementing the assessment this school year entirely on the computer. We did implement that district-wide last year. All of the students were on the technology platform, and we did not provide any paper and pencil assessments. The results are slow. This first year, they're still working on finalizing cut scores and getting that information out, and it is a lot slower than they had originally hoped. I just keep hearing later this fall, later this fall. So as soon as I have a date, we'll certainly let you know. And likewise with NECAP as in the past, they will disseminate that data to the districts. The state is planning on releasing their data, and then the schools and individual results. What will be different this year is in RideMap, which is a platform that the teachers go in to check their certifications. That's where they do their evaluations. They've added more components to RideMap, and RideMap now has an instructional support system that has all sorts of built-in resources. But in there, you can check your students, all of their data. At the moment that those items and that data is released to the districts, it's going to drop in there, and teachers will have immediate access to that data right from day one, as opposed to the traditional, we would get, spreadsheets and have to get them out, and department chairs and principals would then have to disseminate that information and figure it all out. The day that that data is released, teachers will have access to it in the instructional support system. So myself,
teachers are going to have access to the kids that they currently have who tested with someone else.
They are actually going to have, they're going to have access to we clarified that. I actually met with RIDE folks this morning. When they log in, and so myself and Testeriso will be meeting with teachers and principals to give that training. But when they log in, when you log in, you will see your 2014-15 classes and your current year of 15-16. If you click on 2014-15, you're going to see last year's students, and their scores are going to drop in there. So you will know what your kids did because that was part of that testing year. So there's no FERPA issue, what have you. With any luck, this year, when we take the assessment in March, April, May, that area, the scores are supposed to come in by June. So you will theoretically, possibly also see your current year students' scores before they leave. Moving forward, you will only have the access to your kids from now going forward. You can't then jump into the future and see, like, so your kids this year, you won't be able to see their scores if they don't drop in this year during the year. So it's based on the school year. So since that test was taken last year, you will have access to it because they're still your kids from last year.
But the children in front of me this year,
I will their scores will drop in as well.
Okay,
yes,
good.
Yes. So you'll have this year's scores and last year. But I'm sure, right? So you're going to want to see what your kids did last year. Those are going to, and then you'll have access to both of them. This year's current students, if they get the scores in on time, you might see them before you go home for the summer. If not, then you'll have access to them next year to see how they did this past year. So all of those should be in there, and they'll be available the minute they drop in. So most districts, so I can't speak for your district, but Tess and I mean, as far as moving forward, so Tess and I will be meeting, I'll be meeting with the principals, and she'll be meeting with common planning time. A lot of our teachers have already been trained on the instructional support system, but we'll be going in there and showing them where they can find their scores and how to toggle back and forth between those. So we'll be getting their scores and their families, and RIDE has got some of those reports in different languages, so you'll be able to send different languages home as well. So again, I can't emphasize enough the difference between, and this is coming from the commissioner, RIDE assessment specialist, all the way down, that they are emphasizing the fact that this is not to be compared to NECAP, and that they're measuring different standards. It's a different assessment. And so we can't, it's tempting, and I know we're going to want to, because we're going to want to see if you got a 3 last year, do you get a 4 this year? The scoring is different as well. There are 5 different categories. 4 is meeting expectation, and a 5 is exceeding. And then we have 3 degrees of nearly meeting. So we're not sure at this point. Again, I asked the question this morning to our RIDE person this morning, that when it does become a graduation requirement, what they were thinking as far as whether it's going to be a 4 or a 3 or a 2, and that has not been determined yet. So as soon as that information comes out, we will report that out to the community and to the committee. But again, it's just, I can't emphasize enough that this is a baseline, and we may need to make some adjustments, and that's really what we should be using that information for. So really the park information from this baseline year, it needs to be for us to kind of take that step back and make sure that we are aligned, make sure that we are implementing the new curriculum as written, and that to take it all into the big picture. So we give other assessments, we give daily classroom assessments, we give common tasks, we give common end of unit assessments, we give STAR and Ames web testing. So there's a multiple of different assessments that students take here, as well as their grades. And so just to take all of that into the big picture of the student and look at all of that, and not one test can determine whether that student is entirely ready. So that goes for Park and NECAP as well. And so our teachers will continue the same work as we've done in the past in reviewing release items and making sure that our student work is reflecting that same level of instruction and expectation on the park assessment. And based on last year's information, we did already make some adjustments to the next coming year. So the state will be looking at the results and looking at how we can improve things We're going to look at how other districts did amongst each other and how we can use that information to make any adjustments in our student learning and our curriculum. As I said in the past, they're still not clear about high school graduation. This year's 8th graders, if they are taking Algebra 1, we had that conversation today, will be the first group that will count towards the graduation requirement at this point for 2020, this year's 8th graders. So I was also told that there will be some opportunities to retake tests and moving forward. So it is not a one-shot deal for those 8th graders this year. But at the same token, I was also told things change with the park world by the minute. And so information that I even had yesterday could be different than tomorrow. So again, we will do our best to just keep the community and the committee updated on those results. The state of Rhode Island is saying that districts can start using park for graduation requirements in 2017. At this point, we have not had that conversation, but it is a mandate from the state at this time for the class of 2020. And just to clarify, right now we do keep NECAP scores on transcripts, and those scores from this year will not be on this year's transcripts for this year's current seniors. Superintendent Smith is going to talk a little bit about education evaluation as well this evening, but to piggyback on part of that, there is plans to use park results for teacher evaluation. We have not heard anything further in that. There has been no mention of how that's going to be scored or impacted, and we still have no further information. They would like to wait for 3 years of results to start looking at that. And so I have no further, because I know that it's in the manuals. There's been some discussion about it, but at this time, there has been no further discussion or information other than this slide provided to me by RIDE on what they plan on doing with teacher evaluations. This year's accountability is also on the table. So as you know, in the past, we've had warning and focus and priority schools, and certainly commended schools like we have here in North Providence. So the school ratings are not going to change for this year. The only thing that they are going to look for are mentioning and giving the classifications to any schools that now are commended based on their park results. So we will only get ratings if we fall into that category. We may or may not stay in that category, but they're not necessarily going to drop us down to a warning or a focus or anything like that based on our scores. The scores are the accountability ratings are staying the same for this year. Only if a school improves and exceeds their requirements for what a commended school is, then we will be notified and recognized for that. So, yeah, I know it's a little blurry. This is the slide. And again, this will likely change as well, but we'll put this on the website. It's just a sample of what the student report will look like. So there are 5 levels that are indicated there. And so it'll dig in further, just like the NECAP reports had additional student information. Those will be on there too. And it'll talk about what students need some work in and what they are nearly meeting or exceeding. Again, the language is changing, so there is no more conversation about being proficient or distinguished. Our new vocabulary is all about meeting the expectations. And finally, this year, we will be doing the first testing window based on a lot of the end of year activities that go on. We did choose to start at the March 28th window, so we're testing at the beginning of the large window as opposed to the end, and working in science NECAP all in the same time. So we have chosen to go fully computer-based, and our testing will be extended, so it's only a one-time testing. Last year we tested at 2 different intervals, and there was a lot of orchestrating to get that done. So this year it's just one testing window. The test will be slightly longer, but there won't be as many units, and we have a larger window to test in. So we're still waiting to hear specifically, but about the testing time will be about an hour and a half less combined than what we did last year. So as I hear any more information, we will do random check-ins and information, and my guess would be our next presentation will be science kneecap scores as well as our park scores. I believe they're trying to release those items around the same time.
Yes, Rod Silva has a question.
2 questions.
Sure.
And I'll start out with this. Does Rod actually listen to people like yourself and the superintendents, and when you have your collaboration meetings, does what you say hold any weight, or they kind of just, nod along and do what they want? I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sure you're going to say they listen.
I can't speak for what anyone else has experienced. So far, my experience with RIDE has been very positive. Like I said, I met with a group this morning. We're working on some projects, and we've been doing a lot of testing for RIDE as far as testing out new modules. I did participate in those groups when we had to meet and give our feedback on how it went. And shockingly, I took over that group that I was in and was the loudest voice there. So I feel like a lot of the changes that they made to the testing time and the one window that we were okay, we voiced that we would rather have one testing window and get our results a little later than go through that piece and still not have any. So they seem pretty open and receptive.
Well, that's good, because I have 2 concerns that I think we should share with them through your...
I'm meeting with them tomorrow, so
Perfect.
Share away. What would you like me to share?
The first thing is, if they're going to rank schools and not hold students accountable, then that's a joke. Because if we're not going to hold students accountable for something, then what's the point of taking POC? It's just something I have to do. So zoom, 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 and I'm done. But then the school rankings come out and we get killed.
Right.
Then that's not fair.
So can I answer that one
Sure.
first? So actually, I'm so far, Melinda and I have met with the commissioner when he came and spoke to Arissa meeting, and actually he will be there tomorrow morning when I meet with the assistant superintendents. But the feedback has been that he is very much in support of not having an opt-out, and that if you come to public school, then that also comes along with all of the required testing involved with that. So I'm anxious to see how that goes moving forward, whether it will even be an option to not assess. So they are really looking to try and get the high 100%, but still that 95% participation.
I understand. And personally, I'll just say, so no one thinks I have an agenda. Personally, I had 28 children last year in my classroom. We embraced it. So it's not like I'm trying to avoid POC.
Right.
But I have issues with POC, and I think those issues need to be addressed. And the other one is teacher evaluation. STAR is perfect, because STAR is, it follows each student and it's up or down, whatever. Who's making the POC test?
Right.
How do I know what? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
How do I know what's
actually,
on
we had a couple.
So
of
let's
teachers
study this
participate.
and let's get ready for this, and then it changes. And so I don't want to.
It's actually similar to the same group that put together NECAP. We have the same representatives down as our voice for Rhode Island. So Phyllis Lynch and all of those folks, as well as teachers from all over the state, are very involved. So we worked with a teacher from Warwick, I believe it was, to help us with some of our math assessments that we're working on this year.
NECAP,
and she was very involved.
Was supposed to be an indicator of student growth, and it became an indictment on teachers. So, I see this going in the same direction. I don't have a problem with looking at data. I don't have a problem with doing all of this. I'm speaking as a teacher, but I'm speaking as someone on a school committee that a lot of resources go into POC.
Absolutely.
And I hate to think that we're going to be dealing with an unfair and money down the road and an unfair playing field just to spend more money.
I agree. And like I said, the information on PARC literally changes by the minute. Today I sent out the accommodation manual that literally changed from yesterday. They're like, I hope you didn't send out yesterday's because we've already made changes. So I've sent out today's manual. And so the information changes daily. I don't think they're in any rush to change. We've already had some changes to the teacher evaluation model, and Melinda will talk on that, and changes to the legislation intent and what have you. So I don't think that they're looking to race to get that into the teacher evaluation. And the slides were information provided to me by RIDE and the other groups of assistant superintendents. So they are going to wait for the 3 years of baseline. So maybe they'll see it's not something they want to tag in, but I will continue to represent your voice. And speaking of which, Gina did also mention, so I'm sure you all, there was an email that you could possibly have received from the Rhode Island Association for School Committees. So they are having another free training in a couple weeks, October 3rd. That's free. I know it's a Saturday. So if you want to learn more and spend your day getting a little more information, but certainly if there are any questions from the committee or from the community as you're out there at football games, homecoming this weekend, if there are any questions, please feel free to have them give me a buzz. And I will be posting all sorts of resources for Park and for parents and teachers on our website.
Mrs. Pecan?
So I debated whether or not I was going to bring this up in open session,
Okay.
but I think I have to. So as many of you know or don't know, so I think this affects our students who are currently in 8th grade, the class of 2020, who are in Algebra 1, which, hey, listen, I took Algebra 1 at Birchwood, and different time. You have different standards. Assessments were different. I think we really need to think about the way our curriculum is designed and what the purpose is of Algebra 1 in the 8th grade, and if it is absolutely necessary. I have a daughter who's in it. She's straight A's, whatever that means. She does well and talk to her math teacher. She's an excellent student, yada, yada, yada. However, that doesn't mean that I feel like we need to accelerate students faster than they're ready to go. Because my question over and over again is, what is the purpose of Algebra 1 in 8th grade? It used to be because I needed it for AP Calculus. And if you were on that science track, right, if you were going to go, then you needed it. But typically we end up with maybe 15, 20 students who actually take AP Calculus.
Correct.
So I think what we want to think about and look closely at are those grade 7 POC scores. What do those math scores look like? Do we truly have students who should be pushed past the 8th grade standards directly into Algebra 1? Because I think anybody who knows or is worth their salt in math knows if you do not have a strong foundation in Algebra 1, you might as well forget it. It's not going to happen. You're going to flounder in science, you're going to flounder in Algebra 2, and you certainly are going to flounder in geometry. So now I think parents need to realize when we push our kids into Algebra 1, they're going to take the Algebra 1 PARC. They're not taking, and the NECAP, this didn't happen. You took the 8th grade NECAP if you were in Algebra 1. Now you're going to take the Algebra 1 PARC. And now it's going to count for your graduation because you're the class of 2020.
Correct.
And what happens if you don't get the score? Nobody knows yet what the score is.
Correct.
What's the score? The
And
magic
nobody
score in
knows
PARC
how many
that says
times
I'm
you'll be
gonna
able to
be able to
retake
graduate
it.
with
Nobody
this.
knows. Right.
So you could get an A in Algebra 1,
Correct.
not pass the PARC, whatever that score may be, and now go to high school, take geometry, and then have to take the geometry PARC and the Algebra 1 PARC at some point, 2 math assessments.
Correct.
So I think what we need to think about is what's the message to parents about what we need to do and what our curriculum is designed to do. Because what's happening now is, to no fault of their own, I have a child who's in Algebra 1 at the high school, and I have a child who's in Algebra 1 at the middle school. So you would think that there is some collaboration.
It should be
But to no
aligned.
fault of their own, you've got middle school teachers who are saying, wait, they don't know X, Y, and Z, so I have to backtrack a little. So now they're not keeping up with the curriculum that's determined for Algebra 1. So the question is, will they be ready? And I don't know the answer to that question. So I just think there's lots of concerns around the way we do business in our own district with Algebra 1. We've already removed the accelerated English.
Right.
So I think we need to be thoughtful about what our students are able to accomplish. And I don't want to hold anybody back because, listen, if they can move faster, move faster. But I want to make sure that parents are clear about the implications about what happens if they don't make that level, because it does have implications.
Absolutely. The other option, as we've, and we'll have to look at the scores of how the kids did last year and this year for the 8th grade algebra. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. We're.
Just to clarify, so Rod mentioned it with Rod. I had a very in-depth conversation with Mary Ann Snyder. She is well aware of this concern. She is advocating that, same kind of thing.
Right.
What is the
And I've
purpose of
spoken
Algebra
to
1
Patty
in the 8th grade?
Cannavale. She's the math specialist there. And so she's at the table for Park for the math. She's been very involved. And so I do tap into her for her thoughts. So as we get results and see what happens, I think that'll help guide our thinking there. The other option is students certainly can and always have been able to in North Providence be able to double up on math when they get to the high school. So if they are not taking algebra in 8th grade, they're taking it in 9th grade, and they are welcome to double up math in their sophomore and junior year. So if they are mathematically inclined to take calculus their senior year, they still could do that, either through traditional courses in the classroom or a combination of virtual courses that we offer here and in the classroom. So there are other options, but the student would truly need to be motivated enough to get to calculus by doubling up and taking 2 math classes in 1 year. It can be done, and I think it would eliminate some of the kids not being ready, or they could take it down there. But ideally, the 8th grade algebra class is geared for those kids that are really looking to get into a math-related field, and they're excelling in math, and it should not just be because their friends are in it.
And
So,
and Lisa-
okay, on that note, I'm going to,
And I just want to say, I think we should be looking into a more standardized assessment to measure those students that are coming out
Right.
of 7th grade to see if they can really take on those skills of
Mhm.
Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. So that might be
Absolutely.
something you could do some research on, finding
sure.
a standardized assessment in that area.
Sounds like a plan.
And I also think with the park, we're going to have the grade 7 park scores. That is an indicator in itself how ready, because you're going to take that in April and May. So if we get those scores in June,
Right.
we should have a
We
strong
should have
indication
2
of who
years
has those
worth at
ready
this
skills,
point at the end of the
readiness
school
set.
year. Absolutely, you're right. Yep. So I turn it over to you, Ms. Smith.
Next, I wanted to inform the committee that the Facilities Committee met on September the 14th. And I'm going to ask John to give us a little update about what happened at that meeting and where we're at with this whole facilities planning and programming that we have moved forward on.
My presentation will be twice as long as Mrs. Jakes. All right, the building committee met on September 14th, and basically, we agreed to pursue a major projects application for the $75 million, which was the original proposal. As you know, the governor has established a school building authority and a school building authority capital fund. The school building authority capital fund was funded with 20 million, 5 million of which was going to projects of 300,000 or less. And these are the projects that have to get completed by September of 2016. So the committee has voted to submit some of our immediate health and safety programs, projects, similar to those that were submitted with the budget, part of that $16.5 million that we submitted with the budget, to go into the the SBA program for small projects. And these are the ones that are going to be funded probably within the next 6 months. So we've got to go through an approval process. We're not sure how many other districts are in a position that we are because we've already got a stage 2 application in. So in order for districts to take advantage of this money, they need to have at least a stage 1 in. So that many of them don't have that. So we seem to be ahead of the curve. RIDE has recommended that we take a portion of that, submit it. What's going to happen with the funding on this is something we have to discuss, because what will happen is, unlike the current housing aid where we spend the money, we upfront it, and then we get paid back over the next 2 or 3 years, these projects will be funded upfront by RIDE, and the money that we have to put in will be borrowed from Rhode Island Health Education and Building Corporation through a loan that would be paid off over some term with interest. It's unclear as to what that term would be, whether it be 10, 15, 20 years. Obviously, that loan agreement would have to be approved by the town council if we do submit it. And again, the projects have to be approved by the Board of Education as well. But that approval process will probably be ahead of the May 16 date, which we have for our major project, which is the 75 million. Who knows? We may get 3 million. We may get, we have about 2.5 million of pre-approved projects from the old housing aid that we've been grandfathered in. I suspect that at a minimum, we should get that money approved, at which time I would then be coming back to the committee requesting that we present these to the town council to allow us to borrow the money to start these projects. So that letter of interest will be sent. Actually, a letter of interest has already gone in. The application has to be in on Friday. You have in your packet, I believe, the letter of interest on the major programs, which was sent in today. That's due it's due October 1st. So that's already in place. So I believe RIDE had extended the deadline for filing on the small projects because nobody was in a position to submit projects. And we seem to be kind of at the front of the list. So we may be in a good position to wind up getting some of this capital fund money as well as our original project. So then the fun and games will begin. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions of John? Gina?
Actually, I want to, now that I'm on the facilities committee, I want to make sure that we're clear. I think the school committee needs to put a letter to the council. So I'm going to put this in the form of a motion that we, as a school committee, put together a letter for the council, specifically stating what we have done. Now, Kristen Catanzaro, Alice Brady, they're sitting on the facilities committee, so they're aware of the work and how long it's been happening. But there's been some articles in the paper and there's been some ambiguity around what has happened. So I want to make sure it's clear to the public of what the school committee and its subcommittee has been doing for the last couple of years with this work. Because my concern is, and I brought this up at the facilities meeting, is that we're moving to a referendum. That's what they would prefer to do, because although the council has the right, they have the right to not do that and just provide us with around 64 million. However, when I asked the question specifically, the council members that were at the table did not respond. But I would like it in writing that the expectation of the school committee is a response that they're supporting of not only the referendum, but if the referendum should not pass, that they are supporting the facilities. We need our facilities fixed. This can't not happen. So I think we need to be clear about what we've done to this point, what our expectations are, because we have our fact committee who's going to go out to speak to the council soon. And what I don't want them to say is, well, your school committee has never officially, because we're not on record, requested our assistance. So we need to put something in official letter that explains what we've done and what our expectations are and what we expect from the city, from our town council.
A motion, Gina?
So I made the motion.
Motion
Second.
by Gina Picard, seconded by Mr. Palmieri and Mr. De Silva. Who else? Kaya Kameh. Okay. Anyone else want to say anything? Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
The next item on the agenda is just to bring the committee up to date on teacher evaluations. So RIDE has sent out new guidance regarding the state law regarding the frequency of teacher evaluations. The original intent of the law, which was introduced by our state representative, William O'Brien, was that effective teachers would be evaluated during their third year and highly effective teachers during their fourth year. North Providence District Evaluation Committee reviewed the new guidance and has unanimously agreed to follow the original intent of the law. The result is that effective teachers will be evaluated in the year 2016-17, and highly effective teachers will be evaluated in the year 2017-18. This does not impact the support professionals. The district will exercise the right to evaluate any teacher who has demonstrated and there is documentation of a need of an assessment of their instruction in 2015-16. Teachers will be notified of this by October 1st. Teachers scoring below effective, non-tenured teachers, and teachers using a different certification will also be evaluated this year. So we are following the intent of that original legislation. The District Evaluation Committee has all agreed, and the teachers have been informed of this. I meet with the principals tomorrow to find out if there are any teachers that fall into the category of needing an evaluation this year.
Any questions, anyone? Next item.
The next item on the agenda is our transportation update. And this evening, we have Officer Michael Scaramuzzo and Nicole Shalell. Nicole is our GIS coordinator with the town. When we merged technology departments, we also inherited our access to the GIS coordinator. And her work this summer, I can't thank her enough. It has been a big project actually working on the transportation system. So the 2015-16 school year began smoothly, and that's all to the hard work and dedication of our administrators, faculty, and staff. Our schools look great, and we need to say thank you to all of our custodians, Jim Ferrulli, the Town Maintenance Department, and DPW. I do want to thank the parents and students for their patience regarding busing this year. The district took an important project this summer to ensure the safety of our students who use our school bus transportation. This process was very complex. The process included plotting all of our students where they live on a map, determining where they lived, and then creating bus stops that accommodated the neighborhood. Nicole, our GIS coordinator, then interviewed each and every bus driver to find out exactly where they were stopping the bus and what route their bus took. I want everyone to know that that information was not recorded anywhere, and that is in state regs that we have that. The variables that had to be considered when we were determining bus routes and stops included the widths of the streets, inclement weather access, location of sex offenders, and other safety considerations. The routes and stops are given to our emergency responders, which is our police and fire. This information has never been documented, and this project absolutely had to be done for the safety of our students. Parents have called and raised some concern about some stop changes, and the transportation team is reviewing them case by case. I can tell you that I have been going out with Mr. Ferrulli, taking a look at bus stops, and we are adjusting those that we agree with. Nicole Shalal and Officer Michael Scaramuzzo are here tonight in case you have any questions. All bus stops are currently being reviewed now by the police department per state regulations for safety. I will tell you, I even put in my briefs to you this past weekend, that the safety of our students is our priority for this project. We already have been able to notify parents of sex offenders in their areas because of this collaboration between the fire, police, and the school department. And so we thank both Nicole and Mike for helping us in that area. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Officer Scaramuzzo, you want to talk about what your role is in the with the school department?
For those who don't know me, my name is Michael Scaramuzzo. I've been with the police department for 12 years. I am a sergeant for the community police division. Basically, my role is to assess the safety of the schools, to assist Melinda and Lisa in anything they need in reference to safety of the buildings, bus routes per Rhode Island general law. And that's pretty much it in reference to like the school and stuff like that. I do all the ALIS training. I do evacuation trainings, lockdowns, so on and so forth. We have evacuation plans that we went over this past year in reference to evacuation sites, patterns, routes, so that obviously the children are safe and they get there as efficiently as possible. We're working on the bus routes right now. Nicole and I are going to be going tomorrow to each and every bus route. I know there's some parents have some discrepancies in the actual bus stops, and tomorrow Nicole and I will determine if the route and the stop is actually safe. Thank you.
And I need to say that working with Mr. Scaramuzzo, Officer Scaramuzzo, has been wonderful. He comes out, and when the schools are doing their evacuation drills, he's there observing and then critiquing, and then comes back to our office and tells us what we need to do. And currently now we have to put some buzzers and some cameras on our outside doors because the new training says that we need to have the gift of time if an intruder ever entered the building. So we're going to start to lock those exterior doors as well. The interior doors are locked, but now we're going to start to lock the outside doors. The high school here has a good system. We've got to get all of the rest of our schools on that same loop. Next item. Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the financial reports as submitted.
Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the homeschool requests as submitted.
Motion by, who made the motion, Ron? Seconded by Mr. Andriosi. All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the field trip requests as submitted.
We need a motion? Motion by Mrs. Picard, seconded by Mr. De Silva. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
This is the third reading of our attendance policy, so be it resolved that the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the attendance policy as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Andriosi, seconded by Ms. Iannetta. Discussion.
I just wanted to double check the excused tardies, that there's no
Right.
punishment if a child has excused tardies.
Exactly, and we actually corrected that in at the high school level. There was some, I guess, some punitive language there, and we took that out.
I thought so.
Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the 2016 school committee meeting schedule as submitted.
By Ms. Picard, seconded by Mr. Iannetta. Discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the bids as submitted, and that's the snowplow bid.
We have a snowplow bid. We need a motion. Motion by, is it Mr. Andriosi? Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Iannetta and Mr. De Silva. Discussion?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
John?
No, so what was it? 2 years ago, we did the maintenance merge. It was March of 2013.
I believe so.
It was right after that big blizzard. And so I'm wondering why, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this bid more extensive than anything we've had in the past in terms of sanding and all those kinds of things?
No, we had put the same bid out 3 years ago. So that was the same, and that bid was actually taken from a bid that was submitted by the town of Smithfield.
But I'm not seeing where we're relying upon DPW. So all of our is going to be bid out. All of our snow plowing, sanding, winter.
Well, no, we have the option for the sanding and the snow shoveling. If the storms are big enough and we can't handle it, then we'll utilize the outside contractor. But for the most part, we're going to use them just for the snow plowing at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is in compliance pretty much with what we've been doing in terms of past practice and bigger
Right.
storms
Well,
require.
This past winter when we had these
No, I
back-to-back
understand.
storms, we just couldn't handle that.
I understand.
So that's why we brought in the outside contractor.
So to make sure we're still going to be able to maintain our sidewalks and our schools and all of those things and still save the money that we originally thought we would under the merger, and that we're not going overboard. But all of these things are for the big storms. And from what I understand, we're supposed to get a few more of those too. So,
Yeah, I hope not.
Okay.
all right. Thanks for the information.
Further discussion? Anyone? All those in favor? Opposed, ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the resignations as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Andriosi, seconded by Mr. Iannetta. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
We do not have any retirements this evening. Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the leave of absences as submitted.
We need a motion. Motion by Mr. Andriosi, seconded by Mr. Iannetta. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
We do not have any layoffs or non-renewals. Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the appointments as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Picard, seconded by Mr. De Silva and Ms. Dianetta. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted.
We do not have any rescissions and we do not have any displacements. Next item is be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the equal opportunity and non-discrimination policy and officer appointment as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Ms. Dianetta. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the administrative contracts as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Ms. Dianetta. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the administrative salary ranges as submitted.
Motion by Ms. Picard, seconded by Ms. Dianetta. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the removal of textbooks from inventory as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Andriozzi, seconded by Mr. Dianetta. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted.
We're going to table items 19, 20, and 21. And the next item is the use of property. And there are a couple use of properties. I just need to know if we're going to waive the fee. The first one is the North Providence Youth Basketball Association, the facility charge. I need a vote to waive that fee.
I move we waive the fee.
Yeah,
I think it is in the policy.
we haven't been charging.
You know, that, no. I think they have an in-kind and they work with us on,
Right.
those
We're all
kinds of
set on
things.
that, I think.
And same thing with all of those.
And the same thing with the wrestling tournament?
Yeah, these are our school
Great.
wrestling tournaments and this is our feeder program for our tournaments. So yes, these are all in line with our policy.
So we've already waived those.
Yeah,
fees.
these are all in line with our policy.
Great,
Next.
thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just need an approval of the use of property request.
Motion
Second.
by Mrs. Picard, seconded by Mr. De Silva. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Be it resolved that at the recommendation of the superintendent, the North Providence School Committee consider and vote to approve the list of bills as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Picard, seconded by Mr. De Silva. Discussion. Yes, Ms. Dianetta. Okay, Ms. Dianetta, please let the record show that Ms. Dianetta is recusing himself on the approval of the list of bills. All right, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Next item.
Approval of minutes.
Motion to approve the general session minutes for August 26th and September 9th.
Motion by Mrs. Picard, seconded by Ms. Dianetta. Discussion, I'm sorry. By Mr. De Silva. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted.
And a motion to seal and approve the executive session minutes for August 26th pursuant and applicable to Rhode Island Journal Law 42-46-4 and 5.
All right, motion to seal the minutes, seconded by Mr. De Silva. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it, so voted. Yeah, we did. Yeah. Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Dianetta and Mr. Andriozzi. Meeting is adjourned at, what is this? 8:30.